And hello. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate to you how knowing a little bit about Biblical Greek, even if it's just enough to transliterate Greek words, can help you in many different ways, or a couple different ways, to learn more about the Bible in its original languages. So, to review, this is, by the way, in your 3D notes that are posted on Google Classroom. To review, there are three different aspects of linguistic studies in the Bible. First, there is this finding the original words of the Bible, and we'll talk about that one later this week and next week. But to study the language of the Bible, you need to know the original words of the Bible. And then the second aspect is finding the meaning of the original words and phrases, which is what we're going to talk about today. And then finally, it's how do you translate these? And we'll talk about Bible translations and the different approaches the different translates use. So again, today's lesson will be about the second aspect of linguistic studies, finding the meaning of the original words. So let's first find, how would you find the original words of the Bible? One resource, or the resource probably best and easiest to use, is called an Interlinear Bible. And so an Interlinear Bible matches translated words with the original words being translated. And when I was growing up, we used to have to use these big books, and you'd have to look in the books and find all these resources, and then look up other pages, and it was a lot of work. But today we have resources on the internet that make this quite easy. And the resource that's best to use to find the original, in my opinion, to find the original words of the Bible is called blueletterbible.org. And that link is not going to work in your notes, but if you just go to a web browser and type in blueletterbible.org, you will be able to find what you need. So here is blueletterbible.org. So you type in blueletterbible.org, and when you come up here, if you notice on their homepage, the things that you're interested in are right here in this square right here. So don't worry about all their different advertisements and cookies and menus at the top. Just look at this square right here, and you want to type in the verse you would like to find. Well, you can also look up words. That's another way to do it. And then for translation, you can either pick the KJV or the NASB. And the KJV stands for the King James Version. That's a much older, really the original best-selling English version of the Bible. There were some other English versions before it, but the King James Version was the standard Bible for 300 years, from about 1611 to 1911, and then, in the 1900s, other versions began being used. And while the King James Version has lots of great things about it, I would suggest using the NASB, as it will be easier to understand, and also is a more word-for-word translation, meaning that it'll be easier to identify the word you're trying to find the original language in. So again, when you come to this website, it's going to say King James Version here at the top, but you want to click that arrow and select NASB, the New American Standard Bible. And we'll come back to this website in a second. So again, select the NASB. That would be my suggestion. And when you're here, you want to find the verse that you want to know more about. You can also look up words, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But let's just start with finding the verse you want to know more about. And select the Verse or Tools button. So let's see how this works. Let's say I wanted to study the verse John 3:16. Maybe you've heard this verse. It's a famous verse in the New Testament. So you type in John 3:16, just like you would if you were looking at a verse or a passage in Bible Gateway. And when you select go, you'll notice the verse will come up. John 3:16. It's in a little box here. And what you want to click on here is either the, actually you don't have to hit the tools, you can just hit right on this verse right here, and voila, all of a sudden you get the verse in Greek. Houtos yar, pisen, ho theos ton kosmon, hoste ton huion ton monoyeni, edoken hinapas ho pistevon, is avton mi apolite alechi zoin onion. And I'm not expecting you to read it in Greek or translate all of it, but what you can look here is, if you look here on the left-hand column, you'll see all the English words of the verse. And over a little bit, you'll see that it's transliterated words. Meaning for is being translated from yar, and you'll see it both in the English transliteration, so you don't even have to be an expert at transliteration to find this, but then you'll also see the Greek word yar written in Greek and in transliteration. God, theos, or theos, so, houtos. Now, if you notice, sometimes multiple English words will be used for one Greek word, and perhaps vice versa. I don't think in this case. I think it's all one Greek will be one English or two English or three English, but it could be the other way as well. So, for instance, he gave is edoken, and that's because, like Spanish, when you say hablo in Spanish, it can mean it means I speak. The same thing happens in Greek, where the pronoun can go to the ending of the verb. And sometimes there are special Greek words that might mean something that we don't use the same way in English. So his only begotten, monoyeni, means all three of those English words. But the main idea here is that you want to find the Greek word that you want to study more about based on the English word you want to study more. So if you want to study the word love in this passage, you would want to study agapao. The word being translated here is agapao, and that's the word for loved, the root for the word love. So if you notice, sometimes there are three Greek words listed, three different ones. Like here for world, it says kosmon, cosmos. You are interested in the bottom two, not the top one, but the bottom two. The top one is the inflection or parsing, but that one we're not interested in because you're not studying Greek parsings and inflections. So look at the middle Greek word and the bottom Greek word in transliteration. Those are the ones you're interested. Again, he gave, edoken is the actual word in the verse, but you're interested in it, didomi, and again in transliteration, didomi. So the middle line and the bottom line, those are the ones you're interested in. So let's practice here by seeing if you can do this along, and then check your answer here. Find the word or words that you are particularly interested. If you are and cite the record the chapter and verse in English and the translator word. If you wanted to study the Greek word for boats in Mark 36, how could you do that? So you want to find out more about the Greek word boats in Mark 4:36. Again, hopefully if you've been paying attention, you go to blueletterbible.org. And by the way, once you're here, if you just hit the Blue Letter Bible sign on the top left, that brings you to the home page. And once you're here, you again would want to select NASB and then type in Mark 4:36. So Mark 4:36 NASB, and there is your verse in a box. And again, you hit the verse button, and that menu pops up. And then you could scroll down to boats. And again, the top word you're not interested in. You're interested in the middle word, ploion. And again, it has in transliteration here, ploion. So there you go. So you could then type right on this practice example. If you would like to, you don't have to. But ploion, and that's actually enough. You don't need to write it in Greek. I was going to, but no need to. So ploion is what you're interested in. Now, that's great that you know a Greek word, but then how does that actually help you understand the Bible? Like, how could you actually use this skill if you were doing an assignment for a class, or preparing a devotion, or preaching a sermon, or preparing a chapel message, or whatever you're doing for your own personal devotions? How could you actually then use this skill? Well, after you know the Greek word, you can use a Bible dictionary or encyclopedia. And so you can look up the English word in a Bible dictionary encyclopedia, and then once you find it, you can find information about the Greek word. Now, we've used Bible dictionaries and encyclopedias before, but this time, instead of looking up a book of the Bible, we're going to look up a word, and we're going to see that the article will follow, no matter what dictionary encyclopedia it is, it'll follow this format right here. And so this would be something to mark in your notes, as it'll help you find what you're looking for, because this is the order of the article. So take a second, or even take a screenshot of that information, because this is a cheat sheet of how to navigate an article. One thing to mention that's important is that most English Bibles, many words in English Bibles will be translated from more than one Greek root, and therefore, you need to find the exact Greek word that you are interested in. And so there are, for instance, 3 different words for love in the Bible in Greek. But if we're looking at John 3:16, we'd want to look up agapao, that the agape kind of love, rather than the philos kind of love, or eros kind of love. Agapao is a different kind of selfless giving love. It's deeper than philos or phileo, which is a more friendly kind of love. You can think of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. It's a love of neighbors and friends, not this deeper, more intimate love. But then there's eros, which is, we get the word erotic from. It's more of a romantic, sexual love. And so agape, agapao, is different from that too. And so it's not just deeper, intimate, physically, but it's a sense of giving and selflessness. And that's a word that Paul describes in 1 Corinthians 13 when he talks about what love is. So the main point of this is that you need to find out what word you want. So again, always use the Interlinear Bible first, and then once you find the word you want, then look it up in a dictionary or a Bible dictionary encyclopedia. So let's practice looking at these resources. And to do that, here I made some photocopies. You have a separate resource, but I put mine together so it'd be easier to navigate. So let's say I was interested in looking up, or actually before that, here's just some brief example of this. If you look at the word teraphim, that's a Hebrew word, but it works the same way. So here you have the title here. And then here is the transliterated word. And the transliteration looks a little different because it's a Hebrew word. That's a little more tricky to transliterate. So here's the transliterated word again. So you have the title at the top, and then the transliterated word, and then we'll give what's called the range of meaning, the different ways it can be translated as. So it says a technical term, usually translated household gods or idol, or sometimes just transliterated teraphim. And so this is the ways that word can be translated in the Bible. And then it gives a definition, so explains the definition, so a detailed definition. And then following the detailed definition at the very end of the article, you have the author. So again, always make sure you know who wrote this article so you can cite it properly. So again, you have title at the very top, all capital, bold letters. You have a transliterated word. Sometimes there'll be multiple transliterated words depending on how it can be, how it's set up in Hebrew and Greek. And then you have the range of meaning. Again, it's called the range of meaning. So different ways it can be translated. And then you have a detailed definition. Let's see this now in a longer article, but you'll see it works the same way. Let's look at if we wanted to study idols in the Bible. Well, if we look at this article on idols, notice that there are lots of words for idols. In Hebrew, there's semel, pesel, asav, awen, and this is because in ancient cultures there were lots of different kinds of idols. So today we just use one word, idol, and we use it in a lot of different contexts. American Idol, don't worship idols, he's my idol, whatever it is. But in Hebrew and Greek, there were lots of particularly Hebrew, there are lots of different words for idol because there are different kinds of idols. Big ones, little ones, small ones, metal ones, wooden ones you might use personally versus ones you might use in a temple setting. And it lists all the different Hebrew words and the verses that use them. And will then explain what they can mean, worship of idols, detestable things. So this is all part of the range of meaning and transliterated words. So again, let's mark this up. This is the title. This whole thing is the transliteration and the range of meaning. And after all the Hebrew words, then you'll get the Greek words. Again, I'll go like Old Testament first. And if you notice right here, it says GK, that means Greek, and ikon is the main Greek word for idol. So the Greeks didn't have as many different words as the Hebrew people as were used in Hebrew, and that's there are many different factors in that. So that is our Greek word. If we were studying the New Testament, that's what we want to look at, ikon. And it looks like that just basically means idol. Now, next we have our basic definition. Oh, look, here's another Greek word, idolon. So that we have two Greek words here. So it's our basic definition. And then the top of the next column, the basic definition ends. And now we get a more detailed definition. And here we have headings because it's so long. So first it talks about vocabulary. And here's where it would help to know which word you're looking for information about. And so if you're looking for information about ikon or idolon, you could skip over this section because that's about the Hebrew Bible. So you could just skip reading that. And in addition, look at the next column. It's talking about Old Testament again, so you could skip that. And the next column still is talking about Hebrew, so you could skip that. And finally, when you get to this paragraph, this is where it talks about the New Testament terms. And so this would be the paragraph if you were studying for idols in the New Testament, where that you would want to read. So you could mark that and then make sure you would read that. We're not going to read it now, but the point of this is that could you find information that would help you? And so if you're studying idols in the New Testament, that's the paragraph you'd want to study. And notice there's another heading next, form. And again, it's going to start off with Hebrew Old Testament stuff, so we could skip that. Talks about how idols looked. If we had the actual book, these pictures would look much better. But we're not in school. I'm sorry. So we could skip all that section on form. Again, this paragraph, let's see, is it Old Testament or New Testament? Well, it is Old Testament. It doesn't exactly say Old Testament, but it's talking about ancient Egypt and Beth Shean and all these Old Testament places. Here's another idol picture. And then it's talking about ancient Israel. And you can cross that column off. And then finally, you get to the New Testament world. And when you see the New Testament world, that would tell you that this would be the paragraph that you would want to read. And the next paragraph also looks, I mentioned some New Testament, so you'd probably want to read that too. So again, if you know how to navigate these articles, you could skip reading the parts that would not be helpful, unless you're doing more detailed research, and then you would want to find the parts that would be helpful. And again, it usually will run Old Testament stuff, Hebrew stuff, and then New Testament stuff. And you can navigate using headings and also topic sentences. So we've found the sections we'd want to read if we were studying the idols in the New Testament. But the article's not over. After the more detailed information, then there'll be a See Also section, in case you wanted to look up other words in a Bible dictionary, a bibliography, in case you wanted to go read other books, and the author's name. So let's see these sections in this longer article. Notice it says See Also, so you could look up these words in the Bible Dictionary or Encyclopedia. Here's the bibliography. Again, these scholars, the reason they're scholars is because to write these 3 pages, they read all these books or parts of books. So they did a lot of research to make sure they were having accurate information. And then in this case, there's actually 2 different authors' names. When you see 2 different authors, this one means the older author who originally wrote it, and this is the updated author who updated the information when they came out with a new edition of the Bible Dictionary or Encyclopedia. And you could cite both. So P. L. Garber and R.J. W. wrote the article on idol. So there you go. That is how these articles work, and you can know that you're in a new article then when you see the all caps entry at the top. Let's go on to another page now and practice some more. Here, let's say we wanted to study music in the Bible or in the New Testament. And again, at the top of this page, what's the first thing we'll get? We'll get the title. Hopefully you said title. And then there's a lot of different transliterations and the range of meaning. Strings, nigina, strings, masa, burden, seer, sing. Anyway, you get the idea. And if we look in the Greek, we find symphonia. It's where we get the word symphony from. And has to do with the Greek word for singing. And so this whole section has to do with the transliteration and range of meaning. And again, you'd be interested in the Greek words if you're in the New Testament. And then in this long article, I forget how long this is, I think it's like 10 pages. There's so long that they give you a table of contents. And so if you sat a table of contents, you could look through and say which sections would help me read if I'm studying the New Testament. And so you could look and say, oh, the ancient Near East, that's Old Testament. That's Old Testament. OT definitely means Old Testament. Musical instruments. It sounds like a lot of these are Old Testament. And then, look at this, NT instruments. That would be the section you'd want to read. And so instead of reading all 10 pages, you could read the paragraph on New Testament instruments. And again, if it's talking about Mesopotamia or the Psalms, you wouldn't have to read that either. So the main section you want to read would be section H. So this is a table of contents, and you could use that to navigate the article. We're not going to read the article again. The whole point is that you can navigate it. At the end of the article, you'd see who wrote it, and there are probably other words you could look up, and a bibliography. Here's another, and the last article we'll look at is the word love. I talked about in the Bible, there's different words for love, and in Hebrew, it's usually the one word that can be used a lot of different ways, kind of like in English, how we use the word love for a lot of different purposes. I love this baseball team. I love a hamburger. I love my friends. I love my wife. They're all mean different facets. I don't use that word in the same way. In Greek, they use different words for different situations. So let's look at this again. What are we going to get at the beginning? We're going to get the title. Notice in this one, they do have a transliterated here. That's the transliterated word. And there's a basic definition right there. So it's a little bit different in order. Depending on the dictionary or encyclopedia, it might be slightly different, or depending on the article. But there's a basic definition of it. And here's the transliterated word for Hebrew. And the range of meaning again. Then if you navigate the headings and also look for the Bible passages, you want to look for the New Testament ones. And so this mentions all Old Testament, Genesis, Ruth, we could skip that. Here's divine human relationships. Again, it's talking about the Torah, that's Old Testament, we could skip that. Then we get to the next page, and now we're looking in the prophets. We're not interested in that. That's again all Old Testament. But then finally, you get to the Synoptic Gospels. And so here now is something we might be interested looking at the New Testament. And you can also notice that it says New Testament, and here it has the Greek transliteration. So here is the New Testament transliteration and range of meaning. And then we have more detailed information. So you could read about love in the Synoptic Gospels. You could look about love in the John books, John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and then love in Paul's letters. And so depending on what part of the Bible you are reading, that would determine which part of the article you would want to read. And again, at the end of the article, you have a bibliography and the author's name. And then you have the next article marked by the all capital bold letters. So this is how to navigate a Bible Dictionary Encyclopedia article about a word. And as part of the 3D worksheet, you're going to navigate an article about a scorpion. And one other just side note, if you're studying this more in college, another possible resource would be a lexicon. We're not going to use lexicons because they're actually in the other language. So they're similar to a Bible Dictionary Encyclopedia, but they're actually organized by Greek if it's a Greek lexicon, or by Hebrew if it's a Hebrew lexicon. So you have to know Greek or Hebrew a lot more than what I've taught you. But if you ever hear someone mention a lexicon, or in college, if you use a lexicon for a Spanish class or another class, then that is what a lexicon is. Thank you.